So today we're going to talk about a really important concept. It's something that is an internal growth mechanism that's important for all of us, and the card is Fire the Critic. This is a card that was not part of the original pack. It came forward over time, and it really was shown to me quite specifically around how we all have this internal voice, and this voice of shame, and this voice of criticism, this voice of doubt, and how that plays into our own growth, and what the possibility is when we notice what that voice of criticism is trying to do to us or for us. When we have a look at the imagery in this, we see this guy standing here, and he's got this beautiful pink balloon. And if we think of balloons, they typically represent sort of childlikeness, fun, party, laughter. There's a sense of joy that exists with that. And then we've got this shadow, and it's standing there with a sort of pin about to prick the balloon. And that's really what our critic does, is whenever something's starting to be inflated, something's starting to be possible, something's starting to feel good, this voice of criticism, the voice of our own shadow, will step forward and bring forward a level of provoking us into choosing. And so that provocativeness of the critic is something we can learn to embrace. We just almost need to put it in its place. The voice of the critic inside of us is the voice of, who are you to do this? It's never going to work. It's just you're fooling yourself. There's a sense of belittlement and a sense of trying to take something away. And really, if we understand that this is a teaching voice, it's a voice to say, okay, this is not the truth. I'm not going to step into that belief. I'm going to transcend that. Because anything that's worth doing is going to have to break through some kind of barrier, some kind of shell. Now, criticism is a very interesting thing, because this is confused often in the world of feedback. Feedback is a very necessary tool for our growth. When somebody can offer us feedback, or we can receive feedback, or even give ourselves feedback, then we can integrate and we can continue to progress and we can grow. But criticism and feedback are not the same thing. Fundamentally, the difference between feedback and criticism is the sort of tonality of it and the intention behind it. Feedback has always got an offer for growth, whereas criticism has got something that it's taking away. It's got a level of judgment, or a level of trade-off, I think is the best way of describing it. Whereas feedback, when it's offered, it opens up possibilities. Criticism, when it's offered, shuts somebody down. And so we need to understand that this is a very subtle difference, whether it's an external or internal mechanism. The subtle difference between, do you feel like you're opening up, or do you feel like you're shutting down, is part of the difference between feedback and criticism. Now, criticism is not a form of love. And I need to make this very clear, because I see this continuously with clients that I work with, is that we think of criticism as a way of sort of bolstering ourselves up. It's a way of provoking ambition, getting us to be better. We see criticism between couples, or between relationships, or between ourselves and our children, or anybody, as a way of, I'm giving you feedback because somebody has to be truthful with you. And when it's critical, people just shut down. Nobody responds well to criticism. Feedback, on the other hand, as I've said, very necessary skill, but criticism not so much. And so developing a dialogue or a relationship with the internal critic in you helps you to silence the critic that wants to criticize others. And so there's always a sort of transference of this. The more critical I am to myself, the more I may externalize that in criticism to others. In subtle ways, it doesn't have to always be in the overly expressive way. And this creates separation, and it creates smallness, and it helps us remain stagnant. So developing a relationship with the critic inside of you, noticing, how do you hear it? Where do you feel it? I often say to people, where's the voice of the critic? And if you just use this as the exercise for yourself today, just sit in the quietness and ask yourself, where is the critic? Many people will refer to it as being a voice in their head, or it could be something that comes up in some way. Some people feel like it's right in front of them. But where's the critic? What does that voice sound like? Who does it sound like? Is it your voice, somebody else's voice? How loud is it? How quiet is it? And then if you ask the critic to separate a little bit from yourself and you ask yourself this sort of game of, what does this critic look like? What is its purpose in your life? What is it trying to do? And then realize it's all an internal structure and you can change it. Maybe if the critic was in Mickey Mouse's voice, it wouldn't be as traumatizing as if it is a loud, booming voice. So you can adapt it and change it. You can move it around so that it can talk to you in a different way. It can shift from being criticism to feedback. And it can actually honor your growth as opposed to bring about shame, trauma, difficulty, and a sense of smallness. So get to know your critic, go on a date with it, see what it's like, and you can mold it into something that becomes a powerful, powerful tool for your growth. Sending you lots of love. Namaste.
Get your very own deck of I Am Lightwalker cards straight from Taryn by visiting IamLightwalker.com/cards.